Hi folks, I'm Chris. This is my fourth day of hunger strike to protest against universal credit and the rolling out of this heinous punitive benefit. The reason I'm on a hunger strike is for 42 days is because universal credit, when people apply for universal credit, they don't get any money for 42 days. That's 6 weeks without any money at all. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's punitive, and it's driving people into poverty. It's making our most vulnerable people vulnerable to loan sharks, payday loans at 1,500%. We're told that there are crisis loans available, but that seems to be incredibly hit and miss, and you have to pay them back from the pittance that you get at the end of your application. So we need, the reason I'm highlighting this is to get people focused on we need to stop this, that we need to stop the rollout of this benefit until it's fit for purpose. Today I'm just giving you an update on what's happened so far over the 4 days. This is my fourth day of hunger strike. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for their compassion, kindness, support, words of care, words of "Chris, what the fuck are you doing? I'd much rather you weren't doing this." I'd much rather I wasn't doing this, but I think it's a good way of focusing people's minds. I think it'll help people think. So yesterday, I was just heating up some food for Ella, my lovely wife's son, and just fish and chips in the oven. And my God, the hunger really took me then. I think I could have bitten his arm off. I didn't, if the police are watching, I didn't. But the hunger was incredible. Then later on that evening, I was watching TV, just normal shit on TV, and the adverts came on, and food adverts came on, and the hunger I felt looking at those food adverts, I can't even remember what the food was. It was kind of just a general food on the telly, and I was just made incredibly hungry. And this is what it's about. This is about exclusion. Imagine you've just lost your job. You're first of all, you're going to be thinking, you're a failure. You're going to be thinking, shit, I can't provide for my family. I can't provide for myself. I can't, you're also looking for some kind of service. If you've got a physical illness or a physical disability or a mental health problem, you're looking for services, and those services aren't there, or you're put on some kind of bizarre waiting list that's going to last forever. And then you're told that for 42 days, you're not going to have any money. And so we're excluding people. We're putting people in this terrible situation. And what's happening is that instead of blaming our leaders for these circumstances, and they are 100% responsible for these circumstances, we're blaming ourselves. People are just mentally punishing themselves, thinking I'm an absolute failure. And, I can talk from my own experience when I was a social worker for 17 years, and I lost my job due to mental ill health. And that kind of vacuum when you sort of fall into, and you think, this is all I ever wanted to do, and suddenly I'm not able to provide for my children. I always wanted to be a social worker because, well, from when I was 12, and that was because when I was 12, nobody was there for me, and I just promised myself that I would be there for other people. The other thing is this exclusion thing. So you're thinking, right, we're plunging children into poverty, and that feeling of difference is absolutely palpable growing up. As a child, I didn't have the same fashionable clothes that my friends had. It felt like I wasn't even in the game. And eventually I just rejoiced in my difference. But at that transition, thinking, I wish I had so-and-so's clothes. I wish I had a haircut. I always remember the time when a young guy, younger in one of the lower years at school, shouted at me, why don't you go and brush your teeth? And that was at a time we didn't have toothpaste. We didn't have food. I mean, for stretches, we didn't have food. And I remember going into school and I was in woodwork, and the lovely Mr. Booth was showing us how to carve something up using a bandsaw. And I passed out. And you know, he took me outside, and then I threw up, and it was just bile. There was nothing in my stomach. And he asked me, you know, what I had for breakfast, and you know, part of me wanted to say eggs, bacon, and you know, the full works, and because all the time I'm thinking, I don't want him to contact the authorities. I don't want to. This is what we're doing to folk today. We're young children. We're stopping them from living a full life. I'm thinking, you know, we've got Christmas coming up, and you know, it's a huge cultural thing for folk. And how the hell are people going to be feeling around that? You know, as you know, young children are being told that, you know, if you've been good, Santa will come, and so there'll be thousands of kids thinking, fuck, I must have been horrible because, you know, I've got nothing. These times are dire. So today I give you an update. I went out for a walk, just to sort of see how I was feeling with it all. My body has gone into a thing called ketosis, whereby it's finally, you know, worked out the fact that nothing's coming in through my mouth, so it's starting to devour my body, which is great. You know, that's what we were built for. So I went on my normal 4-mile constitution, and it was lovely, and I got to see the birds. I heard sparrows squabbling in a hedge. I saw a buzzard flying overhead. I saw pheasants, and I heard a magpie. I didn't quite see him, and I saw the autumnal leaves turning, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And you know, we're often told by our GPs that, or healthcare professionals, that getting out in nature is a great thing for your mental health. And for me, yes, it is. But there's a third of my life where I dissociate, so I can't actually leave the house. So, you know, this has a huge proviso. And also, I appreciate that I'm in a privileged position. I can, you know, I don't know, in 400 yards, I'm out in the countryside. There are people who live in cities who don't get that experience. And maybe they like walking around cities, and that's lovely, but I don't know. As I was walking and enjoying myself, I was suddenly struck by the fact that if I was in that kind of poverty, that kind of 42 days with no money, poverty, what happens if I wear my boots away? What happens if I wear my boots out? I'm fucked. You know, what then? I have no money for boots. You know, we live in it. The situation with universal credit is it's 55 pence to phone the helpline. I know we were told that they're doing away with the 55 pence fee, but that hasn't happened yet, and it's not going to happen until the new year. So people are still being arbitrarily punished for phoning a bloody helpline. And can you imagine knowing that you have no money whatsoever and watching the clock tick as you watch your 55 pences tick away? 55 pence a minute, 55 pence a minute. I tried it. You're on that phone. I was on that phone for 20 minutes before somebody picked up. 20 minutes. Now, at what point would you hang up and just think, fuck it, I can't do this? You know, 20 minutes is £10. £10 that you don't have. You know, what are you going to do? It's punitive. It's absolutely punitive. So I got back home, and I I suddenly realised that my energy levels were pretty low. I was, I think, yeah, I think it is to do with not eating. I had to lie down. I never have to lie down after a walk, and I sort of rehydrated myself, took in some salts and vitamin pills. Again, I know that's a luxury that people who are applying for universal credit don't have. But I'm trying to keep myself healthy throughout this endeavour. But it is gobsmacking when we think that this is what we're doing to our people. And if you think about saying this is preparing people for work, you know, if you're going to be that fucked, if you're not going to have any clothes, if you've worn out all your clothes, you know, how are you going to apply for work? You know, they tell us that, you know, there are these adverts around saying, if you go for a job interview, try to wear a suit, try and look as smart as possible. If you've been working in a job that didn't require a suit, and then suddenly you're applying for jobs that require a suit, or the interview requires a suit, you're fucked. You don't have any money. You're not going to be able to produce a suit out of thin air. I mean, this is real poverty. This is excluding people at every single level. So I got back, and yeah, as I say, I was tired, but I rehydrated myself, and all was good. And one of the things that struck me is I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, who he's a guy with a physical disability. He's younger than me, but he's a real activist, and he's really passionate about raising awareness and getting people to think differently, and to look at, you know, physical disability and mental ill health in a different way, in an inclusive way. He uses a wheelchair, and, you know, he's trying to get people to think about accessibility. He's trying to get accessibility to, you know, common areas, but also to work, to education, to leisure, all these things. And he runs events. You know, he's a young man, and he's doing all these things, and he's passionate. He works with the police, looking at disability hate crime, and he ran an event looking at disability hate crime, and, you know, he's exactly what you know, we are told that people want from universal credit. It's making work pay. But he was on a benefit called employment and support allowance, and because he was self-employed and he doesn't get paid enough in his self-employment, employment and support allowance tops that up. So his money was being topped up, but unfortunately, just recently, it got his local area passed over to universal credit, and that's really where the shit hit the fan, because he applied, and suddenly he's not eligible for any benefits at all. Nothing, no money, nothing. He contacted his universal credit advisor person to say, what the fuck, and and he was told that because he wasn't earning £1,000 a month, he wasn't entitled to anything. Now, let that sink in. Because he wasn't earning £1,000 a month, he wasn't entitled to anything. Back in my day as a social worker, the thresholds kind of went the opposite way. You know, if you earned too much money, you wouldn't get any money. You wouldn't get any money you wouldn't get any benefits. Not if you didn't earn enough money, you wouldn't get any benefits. It's absolutely bizarre. I'd be delighted to hear from other people in these circumstances, because this is something that people really need to know. This is something that people really need to hear about. You know, we're listening to the constant drip feed, the rhetoric that universal credit makes work pay, and clearly in this circumstance it hasn't. It doesn't. And if it's happening in that one circumstance, it'll be happening in thousands of situations all across the country. All I'm asking from you, dear listener, is I'd like you to if you can, if you don't have a sort of if you're going to have health problems that would sort of suggest to the contrary, why not join me for a couple of days on this hunger strike, and let it focus your mind, let you think about what it's like for our people in this lovely country of ours, that we're making people suffer today. If you can, that'd be great, and then share your story. That'd be fabulous. If you know people who are going through the process of applying for universal credit, tell us about it. Get them to tell us about it. Anything you do, use the hashtag 42 days to get the story shared across the media. The other thing you can do is, we live in a democracy. You can go to your counsellor. Go to your local counsellor, tell them about the situation, tell them that you think the 42-day wait is terrible. You might get told that, don't worry, once the budget comes out at the end of this month, people will only be waiting for 28 days. 28 days is every bit as useless as 42 days. I think they're talking about that as some kind of a gift to people. No, 28 days isn't good enough. We need to be ensuring that people get money as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. The assessment process does not need to be that long and that punitive. Speak to your counsellors. If not, you can go to your MP. MPs are available. You can email them. You can they're on, most of them are on Twitter. They all have surgeries once a week in your locality, so you can actually go and see them and tell them your concerns. We need to be talking about this. We need to be telling people, MPs, and getting them to take it back to Parliament. Just recently, our government lost 2 debates in Parliament around the topic of universal credit, and I don't think it's going to take too much for us to tip it over and get them to think again, to get them to stop the rollout of this ridiculous benefit until it's fit for purpose. So please do get out there and talk to folk. Also, I'd be delighted if you would share this about the place. Get more and more people involved in the conversation. Anybody you like, really. But yeah, I'm going to sign off there. But thanks ever so much for your continued support. It's making this a lot easier, and it's helping me sort of with my passion about it. That we really do need to make a change, and I think together we can do something. Thanks again for listening. I'll be back on again tomorrow, and bye for now.